Hello, my name is Eva, and I have a question for the crowd. How many of you, in the event of an emergency, can name at least 5 close friends or contacts in Vancouver that you could rely on for help? Now, this could be a personal emergency, like a health scare or a theft or a surprise eviction, or it could be a citywide emergency, like a flood or an earthquake. So I'll give you a moment to think about it, and please raise your hand if you can find 5. All right, good. If not, you're not alone. So I was really lucky growing up. I grew up in this wonderful neighborhood called Acadia Park at the edge of UBC campus, and I had a very idyllic childhood. So Acadia Park was a very tight-knit community. We knew all of our neighbors, every house had a family, and there was always events going on in the community. Pizza parties, potlucks, t-ball games. It was just a really wonderful place to grow up, and we felt like we belonged. But more importantly, we felt really safe in Acadia Park. We knew that we could rely on our neighbors for help if the time ever came to it. So when parents had to go defend their master's thesis or go to work when kids were sick, other parents stepped in to help. When kids were lost or got hurt, other kids and parents stepped in to help as well. We felt that we could rely on our neighbors. But unfortunately, sometimes good things have to come to an end. When I was 12 years old, my mom got her PhD and we had to leave Acadia Park. We moved into another part of UBC campus, which felt a lot more disconnected. And this is where I realized what life in cities is usually like. People don't really talk to their neighbors. There's not usually so many community events going on, and things feel a little disconnected. In our new place that we lived, we didn't feel quite as safe as we did in Acadia Park. We didn't feel like we could really rely on our neighbors or that we knew them well enough to ask them for favors. So these early experiences got me excited and interested about urban planning. And I was asking myself, what is it about a community like Acadia Park that makes it such a wonderful place to live? And what's missing in other places? I found this survey by Statistics Canada that found that 79% of people living in Canada do not have 5 close contacts in their communities to rely on for help. And this number is a lot worse for seniors, low-income people, people with disabilities, and people who are living separated or divorced, and immigrants as well. And that makes 29 million out of the 36 million people in Canada who don't have the social support they need to rely on in times of need. So Vancouver is facing a loneliness crisis, in case we didn't notice. The Vancouver Foundation did a study that found that 1 in 4 people feel lonely more often than they'd like to, and only 40% of people talk to their neighbors. And these statistics are from 2012, so they're a little bit old, but I'm curious to see how we feel today. So if you can please raise your hand if you felt lonely in the past week, or tend to feel lonely more often than you'd like to in general. And now please raise your hand if you've talked to a neighbor beyond just saying hello. So we can see that it's still a pretty big problem here in Vancouver. So community connections, urban planning, loneliness, how does it all come together? Well, it comes together in urban resilience. Resilience is the ability of a community to adapt and respond to short-term shocks and long-term stressors that it may face now and in the future. So a shock could be something like an earthquake or a flood that happens in the moment. And a long-term stressor is something that happens over time, such as the homelessness crisis, the opioid crisis, and the housing crisis, which are all major problems here in Vancouver. Now, urban resilience has become a bit of a hot topic in Vancouver. We recently joined something called the 100 Resilient Cities Network, which fosters dialogue about how cities around the world can orient their policy and planning to be more resilient. Also, our city is coming out with a new resilient city strategy, which asks, what can the city do to be more resilient? In October, I got to attend a conference that was all about urban resilience in downtown, and this was attended by politicians, planners, activists, business people, and other officials around the city who are all asking this question. What can the city do from a policy and planning level to make our communities more resilient? Now, this was all very interesting, but I felt that something was missing. And this was the question of what we can do as people in our community to be more resilient. Because policy and planning can't fix everything. You can't put a tax on not talking to your neighbors or a fine on loneliness. It doesn't really work that way. So I wanted to know what I could do from the ground up in my community to build resilience. And I found an opportunity to do this through City Studio. City Studio is an innovation program that you can take as a term worth 15 credits, and it brings together students and city staff to work on projects that address important issues in Vancouver. So the goal of City Studio is to bring to life projects that work on the ground and tie into various city strategies, such as the Healthy City Strategy, the Greenest City Action Plan, and the new Resilient City Strategy. So my friends and I wanted to create a tool that works on the ground in communities and is simple, simple, effective, and easy to replicate. And I'd like to introduce you to my team. This is Sadia, Amy, Sarah, and me, Eva. And we decided to do what any tech-savvy millennials would do. We got some wood, some paint, some string, and we tied it all together to create the world's first Buddy Up board. This is a simple, handcrafted community board where community members can share skills, interests, knowledge, and ideas, and find buddies for learning and doing new things together. Essentially how it works is you take a little buddy card, which you might have noticed sitting in front of you on the tables there. You fill it in with something you can offer, something you'd like to receive in return, and your contact information. Then you pin it up on the board, just like this, and you can take a look and see what other skills and interests and ideas are being offered, find someone you match with, and then you can get in contact with that person and start hanging out as buddies. So people share everything from recipes to home economics skills to ideas and exercise requests like, hey, I want a running buddy, I want a hiking buddy, things like that. And over time, all of these small-scale exchanges contribute to skill building in the community and thus community resilience. So we showcased our project at several indoor and outdoor events across the city to gauge people's interests, and people were very excited. We had over 200 buddy cards filled out, and 100 matches were made. And people emailed us back to congratulate us on our idea and tell us how much fun they were having with their new buddies. They also were requesting buddy boards to be put up in their local community centers, offices, cafes, parks, libraries, and we were kind of caught off guard, like, wow, people actually want this. So that's what we've been doing for the past several months. So here's some examples of our outdoor events. And over the past several months, we've been trying to install buddy boards across the city. This one here that you see is located at Hive Vancouver. It's a co-working space in downtown that's all about bees. So we took our idea and we turned it into a bee-themed buddy board, called it Be My Buddy. And the focus is on helping the co-workers in the space, who are all part of different companies, to collaborate on projects using the similar skills that people need across different companies. This one here is located in Riley Park. It's an outdoor buddy board that looks a bit like a little free library, but instead of borrowing books, you're borrowing people to share skills with. So Buddy Up may be simple, but it embodies something that Vancouver is missing. It embodies the bottom-up grassroots sense of community and a local sharing economy that values time, knowledge, and skills rather than money. This is how we build resilient communities. This is how we defeat the loneliness crisis. This is how we make sure that everyone has those 5 close friends or contacts to rely on in the case of an emergency. We pitched our project at City Hall to gauge the interests of city staff and see if this could be something that could be incorporated into the Resilient City Strategy. And we were met with a lot of excitement. We actually won first place at a student project competition called Hubbub that happened in December, because our project was something that could be easily replicated and set up across the city of Vancouver and beyond to benefit communities. We even got to meet the mayor, which was really great, and he encouraged us to go further with our project and expand in various different directions. And that's what we've been doing over this past couple of months. We've been trying to build buddy boards across the city in community centers, cafes, offices, libraries, really trying to get our idea out there. And so far, we've been taking it one step at a time. Our vision for Buddy Up is that people in their communities will take it into their own hands to build buddy boards and to start sharing their skills, resources, knowledge, and ideas in their own communities. And that's why we've created an open source platform on our Buddy Up website that tells everyone the tools and instructions for how to build buddy boards and get them installed in their communities. So if you have an idea for a place that could really use a buddy board, you should build one there. Because our communities need stewards of happier, healthier, more connected communities, and it could be you. All it takes is a little bit of creativity, some energy, and a desire to change our cities for the better. My name's Eva. Thank you.
So you may have noticed that there are some Buddy Up forms in front of you. So do you want to just tell them what to do that? Yeah.
So yeah, the little cards that you see in front of you, those are Buddy Up cards. And our idea was that during the break, if people were interested in trying out this idea, you could fill in your card, pin it up on the board, and then you can take a look and see if there's people who interest you and just meet someone new and find a new buddy.
So why don't you take just a minute or two just to see, like, think really carefully about, like, what could you offer? I saw there were quite a number of hands, actually.
Oh, yeah.
For when Eva was asking the questions. Just think about, is there something that you are particularly good at that you would want to share, but also at the same time something that you've always wanted to learn or something that you've always wanted to do. So why don't you just spend a minute or two to kind of do that? So
yeah. Great.